Stop Killing Games. Stop Killing Games was going to end abruptly. Just stop. It was going to not work out. People were not going to sign it, and it was going to be the end for Stop Killing Games. It is what I would say if I wasn't taking a piss in the bathroom, seeing all the reactions on the recommendations on my channel, that, well, not my channel, on YouTube, that it was actually doing really good. The main reason as to why Stop Killing Games is taking a turn for the better is actually the same reason as to why it was going to end. Pirate Software, who was against Stop Killing Games, garnered so much momentum, traction, attention towards that petition specifically, because people just didn't like what he was saying, and people didn't like him for that, which caused so much more attention towards what was going on. In fact, I think this is probably the best amount of attention it has ever had before, or now. So yeah, I think he is going to talk about that in this video now. So here we go.
Okay, this one's going to be fun. So, the Stop Killing Games initiative is almost over, and the last time we covered it, the European Citizens Initiative, which is the part of it that matters the most, had just opened. And as of right now, you've got just days to join it, meaning that this is your last chance to make your voice heard and hopefully prevent the games that you buy from being destroyed. But here's the thing, until last week, it really did seem to be rather doomed. They needed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, over 500,000 more signatures. But, well, right now, it's gaining thousands an hour. The reason why is quite funny. So here's what happened. They needed to hit 1 million signatures, but after months of stalling, they only had 450k. But then, over the horizon, a savior came. That savior is Pirate Software. And that's because his opposition, plus a few pinches of World of Warcraft, sparked a drama that is now surging signatures to the tune of...
Sorry for just cutting in the video. I'm going to be doing that a lot because, you know, it's a React video, so I have to give input like every now and then, whether you like it or not. So my main curiosity is how does someone get a bigger and sustainable community based off MMOs? Because I know that there's not simply playing an MMO, and I'm asking that because I want to do that too. I want to be known in a MMO space or in a gaming space in general, particularly because I like MMOs, I like RPGs, I like shit like that. And to basically do shit like that would be really, really cool. I want to create shit. I want to create entertaining videos that kind of acts as a show. But I mean, it wouldn't really be a show though. It's a YouTube video. But those are far more entertaining than any fucking movie potentially anyway. So yeah. But it's like, because I know they're just not playing the game simply and doing that, unless, you know, it's for a longest time. But YouTube is a lot harder now to get popular in and to have a bigger community in. Back then, people could get big instantly because, I mean, a lot of kids were on YouTube too, and they were watching like Markiplier play FNAF, and that gave him like such a huge boost. Though I really don't want my community to be having kids watching it. I really don't. I don't think that would happen though, because my topics aren't really, I don't think they're not that exciting in a way that a kid would find it exciting, I guess. But yeah, I mean, what would I do to simply get, you know, an instant amount of views on a video or a moment that happens in streaming? And I think that happens with accommodating with things like Reels, Shorts, or posts on Twitter or X. And I don't know. I'd have to figure out what I would do with that. Either make a really edited video with a plot, or go on Mind, and boom. But I don't know. We'll see.
Over 240,000 in just 7 days. So, time to get you up to speed. It all began last year when the darlings at Ubisoft shut down The Crew. Now, they didn't just shut down the online features, they shut down everything. Because, as it turns out, even the single player required the online component. That basically meant that your copy of The Crew was, no longer a thing that you could really do anything with. So, Ross Scott from Accursed Farms was not a fan of this, so he started a movement. Now, you may know Ross from things like Freeman's Mind or Dead Game News, and his plan, right, was to use...
I actually haven't ever seen his videos before this. I only know him from Stop Killing Games, and I think a lot of other people only know him from that too. But hold on, sorry, the mic is too far. But I do know that I really want to check out his shit after this too. I want to see what it is he posts because gaming news is something I would love to really cover. I do think reactions can be a very easy thing to do to get views, but it can easily become lazy in a way to where it's just some guy, watching a video without putting any input because he just doesn't really care about what he's watching. He just knows it'll help him get views, which he's right though, because I mean that's what gets views a lot nowadays is simply being there in front of a video, watching it, and just people watching it with you. I don't know why that gets so popular, but I think it's because it creates a sense of someone being there with you while you watch the video. And that's kind of why I like to watch reactions too sometimes, because someone's there watching it as well. It's very weird. I don't know if it's like a human connection kind of thing. It might be. I'd actually have to look into it way more. Video idea. Fuck. But that's why I do watch a lot of Asmongold reactions towards like gaming drama and shit like that. So if I'm gonna react to shit, I'd rather have it be something I'm passionate about or into, so I know I can actually say things while I watch the reaction and just not just sit there and say nothing. Also, there's a big controversy or a big question of whether or not it should be allowed or not. And one argument says that it boosts traction towards the video itself, the source of the video, and the other side says that it's basically stealing. And I think both can be true, but the problem is that that video that gets so much reactions to it gets like 10 times the amount of views on the video that was made that they're reacting to. No, the reaction itself was getting 10 times more views than the video that is being made is not. So I think in order to, somehow just make this my own thing is by giving a lot of input enough to where I triple the length of the video and just not triple double. I don't know. I don't know if I can really triple the length of the video, but I can definitely make it longer by simply giving more input, ideas, and just things that I'm genuinely curious about and I want to know. So that's why I'm talking so much in this video now too. I was going to say something before. I forgot though. Fuck. Okay.
The law, not change.org, to actually change things here. And it certainly seems that now, a year on, he actually may succeed in a way. So basically, right, Ross believes that consumers bought a product with games like The Crew, and that product was then taken away. But from Ubisoft's perspective, it's rather different. They argue that they sold a license to a live service, a service that they could simply end whenever they wanted. So put simply, what this movement aims to do is to address this grey area so that, at the very least, people would get formal clarity on what they were actually buying. Best case scenario would involve something basically with more teeth. Now, this was all
just a refresh on like some other things in mind, that if a company was going to list a game for sale and be like, oh, well, you're not really buying the game, you're renting the game. So if they replace the word buy with rent on like Steam or some shit, do you think that game would get more sales or no? No, it'd probably get less sales because they have the word rent and not buy on that. Because no one wants to really rent a game when they're older, at least. I know when I was young, I like rented some Nintendo games, but like I can't imagine myself doing that ever again, really. I'd rather just buy the game itself and not know. I would lose access to it, I think the prices also vary too when you rent a game. I mean, that's like a whole other discussion for later. But again, sales would be way less compared to now if they had the word rent on it. So if having this petition signed and having it go our way means some games won't be made because, the companies all just want us to only rent it, really, in reality, and not really let us hold on to it, then I don't see that as a problem. Games like that shouldn't be released if they're just simply going to take away from us what we buy, what we own. Because I'd rather own something and not, own something. But yeah.
multi-pronged. There was a UK campaign that hit problems early on with the government claiming that existing laws already cover the issue. As for the US, well, basically, it was never an option because of already settled law. Now, because of this, stuff looked grim. But last summer, another path opened, and that path was the EU Citizens Initiative. So, this lets EU citizens propose legislative agendas, and this proposal was very simple. Stop destroying video games. And what it would require certainly does sound simple. It's that any game sold in the future would have to prepare for the eventuality or the possibility of server shutdowns, that they would need to remain in a functional, playable state. Now, this could be through, say, single-player access, maybe through peer-to-peer connections, opening up private server stuff. You get the point, right? But actually, what's key right now is that at this point, the implementation details are actually not required. The way this works is that if it is successful, the EU will then have 6 months to respond, and if they say yes, then they will adopt a resolution. And that would guide EU activity, but it would not instantly mean a whole bunch of new super hasty laws. But make no mistake, it would actually matter. And that's because EU policy has got global impact. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
It does matter to the people to the consumers who actually care about gaming, but not just gaming. This could affect possibly other consumer like rules as well in the future too, because this is about consumers' rights and not just about video games specifically. Here's the thing: the people signing this petition, the petition that is meant for, the people that the petition is meant for, are people like you and me, people who play games, enjoy them, and have fond memories of games that we played when we were younger as well. It would really suck to think that we could never play that game ever again with our friends to have a fun night because the game was just shut down. You know, that would suck. And the problem is that Pirate Software overcomplicates the scenario to where he brings up things that are really even related to the topic at hand. At least that's what I assume, because of all the people reacting towards his content and big YouTubers commenting on why it wouldn't make sense of what he's saying. And I mean, again, it's a good thing though. Like, it's as easy as that. Games you want to buy and own do not go away afterwards. That car racing game is one game only, but that doesn't mean that's the last game that it'll happen to. That will happen too, where it will just end and we can't get it back even if we bought it. Well, with this petition, we can stop that from happening again. But if it doesn't happen again, who knows what will happen with other games that you buy that will simply just end abruptly and just never let you play again even though you bought it. That could happen again if that petition wasn't signed enough. Now, again, it's just simply stop killing games. It's simply just saying, hey, I want to own something that I buy, and that's that. We can take care of the complicated stuff later after we get this done with, because there's no point in bringing up future things just yet until we actually get, the whole thing signed. So, yeah.
Yes, now, just look at Apple and Google for one example. Now, for this, all that's needed is A, 1 million signatures, and B, a minimum threshold being passed in at least 7 EU countries, which basically just exists, so, I don't know, if the French all get together and want something that nobody else wants and only one country passes, then, hey, the EU's safe. Anyway, you get the point. That is the challenge. Those are the stakes. So here's what happened next. Going through the requirements, the regional thresholds do seem to be quite manageable, right? Now, the million signatures is quite a lot. I mean, a hell of a lot. And success there would require a multilingual international campaign, one that's actually centered on EU citizens. Who is leading it? Well, an English-speaking YouTuber with a cult following, which I mean in a positive way, just so I'm being clear. But basically, it's not a huge number of people. Now, this story obviously did cut through. Loads of people covered it, us included, and the early momentum was really strong. Until it wasn't. Now, this is because some things fell through. One being a planned feature in GOG's email newsletter that was tanked by that company having layoffs. Even Heineken, yes, Heineken, the beer people, wanted to include the campaign in their marketing, but only after the petition ended. But there is another one, and I think I know it's the one you want me to talk about. It's the pirate. Okay, TLDR, Pirate Software opposed the initiative. This is back when it all kicked off. So what I'll do here is boil down what I essentially think is the best case, or like the best faith version of his argument, which is essentially that in very many cases, over-regulation often actually helps the incumbents. In this case, would help the AAA companies. The reason being that they would be the only companies with the resources to actually overcome the regulations. That is actually a fair enough, reasonable argument, but I think in practice, it's fair to say that Pirate Software, in his 2 videos, was not really steel-manning his opposition. There were some errors, wasn't really a great situation. But really in this story, there's a key thing to remember. The initial, I'll say drama, let's just say hot public disagreement, that with Pirate happened when, let's just say, his internet stocks were in a slightly different and altogether more healthy place. Since then, he was involved in a major World of Warcraft drama, which I will cover shortly. I don't like doing drama, but in this case, it does actually inform how.
I think he's talking about the time when, I'm not sure if this was it, in fact, but maybe when basically a group of content creators who were doing this dungeon boss battle thing in World of Warcraft happened, and then everyone died except Pirate Software because he ran away. But I think people were blaming him because he was the one that initiated the fight. I might be wrong. Don't. I am not like the last foolproof source of information. This is a case where I watched a video a while ago, and that's what I remember from the video. Go look it up yourself if you want like the actual information. But in this case, I'm not confident that I know like the full thing. So just to make you guys aware. But I guess there was some other crazy drama shit because I'll be honest, I don't really know Pirate Software. I've only known him as like that one guy who had a lot of views, simply for just playing World of Warcraft, I think. But I think there was so much shit else. Like his views went higher just gradually, I think. But I don't know if there was some big event that led him to become more popular. But I do know there were events that were very controversial for him as a content creator as well. But that's all I really know. I have no idea like what were some of the controversial things themselves, which we'll learn shortly here after I'm done, talking your fucking ear off and shit like that. But yeah, I've never really watched this stuff.
How the news would play out. As for the initiative, well, by the following April, signatures were just sitting at 425k. That's not even halfway, and only 25,000 signatures had been added between April and last week. So it basically was dead in the water. Momentum from the previous summer had completely fizzled out. But then, with only weeks to go, Scott posted his video, and everything changed. The end of Stop Killing Games. It's a fairly dramatic, somber title for a video, and one that is fair. It absolutely did appear to be dead. It was a final plea and an explainer made by a very, very tired-looking man. It was clear to me that the campaign had taken its toll. Scott admitted as much. The
thing about Ross is that he's someone who genuinely cares about gaming, and you could see it on the look on his face when making that video. The way how tired he looked and shit, how angry he was too about this. I mean, dude, that Pirate Software's video at the beginning really made things really twist Stop Killing Games into something it wasn't even going to be. Which, really puts a halt on all these signatures, which was, horrible. But I guess in the end, it created momentum, more attention, and it's also because people realize now that Stop Killing Games was just entirely wrong. Wait, did I say Stop Killing? Pirate Software was entirely wrong about Stop Killing Games as well. Still don't know why he was against it, honestly. It's a simple thing. But yeah, I think once people... And bigger YouTubers like called him out for that. I don't even know if called him out is like the right word. That's kind of like over dramatic, I guess. But once that happened, it really set things forward.
Voice quote, "It's like asking someone with severe dyslexia to write a book report on War and Peace. I am the wrong person for that job." And I think that does speak to the absolutely mammoth amount of work that doing anything like this would actually require. But it's not all that Scott said. He took aim at Pirate and he explained point by point, right, how Pirate's coverage was, in his view, not at all a fair representation of the overall initiative, its goals, its specific language, and I would say from my read of it, I think Pirate almost immediately jumped straight to some worst case outcomes of a maximalist version of the campaign. Of course, we
That's kind of the best way you can put it. He brought up these scenarios as that were very unreasonable to bring in, um, as a way of saying that Stop Killing Games was bad, and it was such an overcomplicated thing. And honestly, I feel like that's what happens a lot with people who don't really agree with shit. They overcomplicate it, and I think they're doing that in so many ways because they want to at least seem like they're right in some kind of ways that they just bring up out of nowhere. Um, I don't know if he was just misinformed or if he genuinely just didn't want to be wrong about that. I hear he has. I hear again. Not gonna say this is some confirmed shit, but I get the impression based off all the drama happening, he's someone that only really likes to be right, or no, he just doesn't want to be wrong. And that's something I hear a lot from people in their reaction towards Pirate Software and their videos, is that he's someone who really doesn't want to be wrong. And that alone creates a lot of problems for him as well, and makes people see him in a very bad light.
can add to that an interpersonal level to all of this, the usual emotional reactions, hot words. But if it was just that, if it was only that, well, what happened would not really be what has happened. So let's talk about World of Warcraft. As I said, I hate covering drama, but today it is actually relevant because basically it is the kindling. I think what we're seeing with this initiative would not really have played out if these World of Warcraft related events didn't play out the way that they did. Because basically this is why people were ready, willing, and even excited to hop back into the fray and to pump all of this up. So here's the TLDR. Only thanked as a WoW.
Real quick, sorry, I know this is a big moment in the video. I just want to say one thing. People underestimate how much a community can bring people together solely for one video game, one MMO. Because MMOs create that sense of community, and that's why it can bring so much people together. And that is always highly underestimated.
Classic hardcore streamer content.
Also, OnlyFans is fucking
words,
crazy.
But basically, think of it as a reality TV show where dozens to hundreds of hours of gameplay are at stake, because when a character dies, it is dead. Just that character has got lots of fans in Twitch chat and some sort of big name behind them.
I might be right about this. Okay, this is what I was talking about.
Along with other streamers, were doing a dungeon in this game.
Yes.
And that dungeon went poorly. People died. And of course, whenever they died, that means they lose their characters that they progressed. Now you might be thinking, so what? A World of Warcraft dungeon run went bad and people lost their characters in a hardcore server. Why is that a news story? Well, there absolutely is a reason why. So it was broadly seen that he went very much every man for himself mode, trying to save his own character and really to the detriment of his teammates, a few of whom died. Now at the time, tensions were high, and those tensions were pointed at Pirate Software, both from viewers and from his fellow party members. And what followed was, I think, to put a very messy thing in simple terms, in an emotional sense, the opposite of saying, shit, my bad, I'm sorry, I absolutely could have done more there, my bad. Basically owning the L, doing so in public, and doing so in a way that feels authentic. Of course, that, feels authentic because it actually is authentic. So if you ask me, what actually happened is a common downfall of very smart, very rational people. That's because very smart, very rational.
Let's rate it on what he said about this. Okay. Those trying to character assassinate me online for a bad pull and dire maul WoW hardcore. This is hardcore WoW, and a lot is on the line when you step foot in a dungeon. Here is light breakdown for the last 24 hours. I'm not going to read all of it. I just want to see what he's saying here. Our party went the wrong way and overpulled multiple packs with the boss. The shot caller made the call to run, and then went back on that call. During the run, another pack was pulled as we had opted to skip it previously, which is never a good thing. Communication was completely broken throughout this, and it was our second time following the dungeon. Everyone played poorly, and 2 people ultimately lost their characters for it. So, I think what happens is that people read this, but still, see the actual footage, and I guess they assume that Pirate Software could have done a lot more to stop what was happening. And so he's creating all these reasons as to why he was not, why he's not wrong. So, and there you go.
Rational people can rationalize how they are very, very right and others are very, very wrong. And from that place, it's very easy to disregard how other people think and to not have a holistic view of a situation. I mean, to put it in very simple terms, people thought he came off really defensive. And what all of this meant was fuel for the fire, an abundance of fuel. And I've got to imagine that from Pirate's point of view, it really must have looked like the entire world was against him. And I mean, in a few ways it was. It was a total mess. Or, per the dynamics of Twitch, it was an incredible content event. And the reality is that once people are against you, it's very hard to change minds.
That's the internet
as
for you.
I think Pirate was, you're feeling quite defensive and you're very much feeling the toll of thousands of angry people being very angry at you in just about every way they can. Meaning that, yeah, some people were, let's just say, going beyond having just a civil disagreement. Now, after that point, some aftershocks followed. There was a clip of an Ashes of Creation raid pool that sparked a bit of a drama. There were then accusations of pre-watching games in order to look better on stream. There was critique of his Blizzard credentials and a whole lot of different things. Basically, he turned into somewhat of a punching bag. Now, I suppose, try and work through some of this, he did a session with Dr. K. I think it was a pretty enlightening one. It certainly is, I'd say, a good listen. It essentially did get into why he reacted the way he did, the way that he actually felt. I'm not going to paraphrase here too much beyond just what I've already said. That's my takeaway. So I'd recommend, if you want more texture, more understanding.
Then this is kind of another time of him just, feeling that way as to like the whole world being against him and disagreeing with him for the right reason, though. I mean, he's saying some weird shit about stop killing games, and it's not even related to like the situation at hand, and that's causing more and more people to be against him, rightfully so. But I guess that's kind of why why he would feel so defensive about it now, because there's so many people against him and the pressure's on. But that's kind of content creation for you. There are going to be thousands, if not millions, of people just angry at you for so many things, and then trying to nitpick the little things out to make you to make you look even worse. And that's going to happen a lot. So it's just to be expected. But yeah, it's a crazy, crazy ass scene going on. But I'm not gonna lie. I think it was a good thing that people didn't agree with Pirate Software about stop killing games, because again, stop killing games is it's a good thing. So yeah.
Understanding of this story and the social dynamics that made it play out, give Dr. K's video a watch. But as it pertains to the Stop Killing Games movement, I think you can see how, well, whenever there was the initial disagreement of Ross, Pirate stocks were looking pretty good. But then he was involved in several major dramas. These dramas led to hundreds and hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people maybe finding out about him or having a changed opinion of him. There were a lot of videos talking about, mistakes, examining everything. And that's why right now, before this video, when I just searched for Pirate Software on YouTube, here's what I got. We've got the Pirate Software Unraveling featuring a game developer, 211k views.
Yep.
A Josh Strive Hayes reaction, 204k views. An Axeman video, 586k views. An Upper Echelon video, 266k views. One from Moist Critical, 3.1 million views.
That's a bigger one.
And that is just
that's
the
a
top
bigger
few
one for
search
sure.
results. We're talking about millions of views here. Now, while so many of these were rooted in the dramatic aspect, obviously they were related to Stop Killing Games, and they all painted Stop Killing Games in a positive light. And what that essentially meant is that now you didn't need to be a game preservation enthusiast to know that Stop Killing Games exists. All you needed was a passing interest in one of the larger ongoing dramas, and of course, even if you didn't have that, social media algorithms do know how to find you if you could be interested in it. All of that means a humongous megaphone, and so far, it absolutely seems it's done the trick. We've went from almost certain failure at 454k signatures to, at the time of writing this video, 714k, and at the
Basically, it was like this. Oh, Pirate Software? I fucking hate that guy. Look him up. Oh, Stop Killing Games? He's against Stop Killing Games? All right, well then I'm for it. It was like fucking shit like that, pretty much. Regardless, though, I think they would know Stop Killing Games is a good petition to go for anyway, though. But yeah, it's kind of like that.
time of recording, which was only a few hours later, 737k signatures. Now that
Amazing,
basically
dude. Holy
means that
shit.
they need 263k in about 30 days. And obviously, if this rate holds just a little bit longer, they'll absolutely make it. Or will they? Because here's the thing, they do actually need consistent, legitimate signatures. The reason why is fairly simple. Fake ones could be stripped out. Overexcited Americans having fun with a VPN, I don't know, could probably try to sign up for this.
Those do more harm than good. Guys, if you're signing the petition and you're not in the UK or EU, please do not do that. It would just make everything worse for Stop Killing Games.
It wouldn't help the initiative, it would probably get scrubbed. And, well, if you're in America, you can't sign an EU petition. So it's not a guaranteed thing just yet, but it certainly is looking like it's going to pass 1 million. Now, what happens if it succeeds is basically this. The EU Commission will consider further action. That could be legislative action, or it could just be guidance on existing consumer laws. Now, no matter what, the industry would have significant input, but regardless, we would get a formal statement on the matter and its legality. And that's actually a powerful starting point for future conversations and new laws. But here's the thing, it gets even better. Because those conversations have already begun, and we've already started to make progress.
Yep.
For all the noise and all the drama, the core problem is fairly simple. That audiences often think they're buying a product when they buy a game, but in reality, they're actually buying licenses. Now, since October, Steam explicitly states that all purchases are licenses, that it's not ownership. And that was always the case, it's just that now it's no longer hidden in their EULA. And Valve's timing was, let's just say, curious here. That's because California signed AB 2426, stating that any media that you can't permanently access offline must be labeled as a license, not a product. Now, another side to this is companies seeing PR opportunities, and there's a beautiful irony. Ubisoft, yes, the very company that started this whole mess, is actually taking action. That's because they're testing offline modes for The Crew 2 and Motorfest, and I think it's fairly clear that the Stop Killing Games movement inspired this. So, you know what?
They wouldn't, hey, keep in mind, they would not have done that. Ubisoft would not have fucking done that if they were not called out for it. Companies think you're stupid. That's it. They think you're dumb and will just not look into things that far. Don't be played by this act of we hear you and we are concerned about what you're saying and we want to do things for you. Granted, there are people, game developers and other people in game companies like that who are genuinely good people and who care for these kind of things. But there are some people like Blizzard's CEO who just do not give a shit and just want the money. Again, that's why things like Stop Killing Games have to happen more and more. Because now you're saying all these things pop up, all these problems pop up on Steam, other games, other companies realizing, oh shit, we might have to change things too. And it's causing them to pretty much change their ways in case, they get called out for it. Because once they do, they might lose sales, and that's not good.
In certain ways, it's already winning. Now, another thing that could inspire this was an actual lawsuit, specifically a Californian one about the closure of The Crew. But that lawsuit is actually facing some problems right now, and that's because of a Final Fantasy XI related precedent that lets companies remove users from games, because, well, as a user, all you've bought is a license, and that can be revoked. That's a ruling that obviously plays to Ubisoft's advantage in that lawsuit, but looking at the big picture, we actually do see the developers are choosing to address these issues. And not because they're being forced to by the law, seemingly because they want to. But there are many reasons for that. It could be PR, or it could simply be because they see what way the wind is blowing.
All right, okay. I think that's a little bit too optimistic, but granted, this is someone who has a lot of experience in these areas of discussion. This guy is amazing with his videos, so I mean, obviously, if he says that there is some weight to that. But I don't know. I can't trust companies like that who just, who just do it when the problem has happened. They've only done this after light was shined on this problem. They did not do it before, or even more late or before or whatever. You know what I mean? They only did it now because there was so much attention on these things. Granted, like I said before, yes, there are people who see things the way we do because they are gamers just like us. They are consumers just like us who just happen to work at that company. But there are definitely people who know this is a PR thing. I think this is more of a PR thing. Obviously, you don't have to agree with me. I'm just saying I just think this is a kind of a more of a PR move. But regardless, it's still a good thing that's happening, though. It's way better that they were actually saying things about it now, and just not saying things about it before, or just never. So regardless of whether it's a PR thing or not, I think it's still a good thing that this is happening regardless, because it'll push other companies now to do the same, whether if it's for PR or just because they generally do see things the way we do.
Here's something cool. Take a look at Supermove's World of Parkour. This is an indie game that failed. Legal obligations prevent keeping the online functions active, but existing owners can still play it in single player. There's another example. Whenever Blizzard Entertainment purchased Spellbreak's developer, they obviously stopped
that game
the game.
had so much
But
potential,
months
man.
later, they released a peer-to-peer version of the game on itch.io. That's awesome. And before
Hell yeah.
all of this, Valen Studios ended Knockout City, but they made sure that private servers still would work. This is basically 3 indie teams finding a way to preserve their games retroactively.
Bro, indie devs are so fucking cool, man. Like because they are guided by people. These games are made by people who actually care about gaming. You know, they're not big companies who only care about money. These are indie game developers made by a small team who are passionate about what they do, and that's amazing to see.
It is good shit. It matters. Now, yes, it is the case that player counts may be in the single digits, but it preserves gaming history. If a bunch of people want to play one of these games together,
it's
they
good
actually
regardless.
can. And if
Yeah.
Stop Killing Games passes, developers would have to consider things
shit.
like this, not retroactively, but from day one. And that doesn't mean you can no longer make an MMO. You can still make Helldivers, but you'll need to sell your games correctly. You'll need to label them as what they actually are. Are they?
Again, if that stops future games from coming out, I don't really care. We should not have bad business practices like this at all. Because, you know, we have to start from somewhere, and we're not going to just not improve anything and stay in the same place by, you know, by having to accommodate for the whole thing. Because we're not accommodating for anything. We are simply just not doing shit about it. So if that stops from games from coming out, then I don't really care. That's fine, because I think what matters most is consumers' rights and, again, owning what you buy.
Are they products or are they licenses? And you'd need to provide some sort of exit plan whenever servers shut down. And nobody is saying that retrofitting games for offline play is an easy thing, but I don't actually think that's a reason not to try this. Because
Exactly.
in many ways, the direction of travel has not been great in gaming.
We improve while also being aware that it's going to be hard. That's literally that's something everybody knows. That's like the easy shit to realize or remember, that it won't be easy. Yes, we know. But that's the whole reason as to why it's so important, because these are big steps to overcome. And, you know, I don't know, it's so easy to know, so simple to know, that I can't really give some thorough explanation as to why you have to know that. I mean, it's a challenge, so we overcome it. That's the point. That's the whole thing. Like,
It's often not been great in consumer law, at least until recently. I think making progress in this realm is absolutely a good thing. And I think the idea, why not try? Well, I think that is the attitude that we need. Of course, as for some of the reasons why not, you've likely heard those from Pirate Software. I think most people are thinking that on balance, no, it's actually worth giving this a shot. I think the benefits to consumer awareness, consumer protections, and, well, game preservation are pretty damn good reason why we should actually try. So, it's up to you. My question is simple. Why not give it a try? You can find the thing linked down below, and, well, if you want to see an example of consumers not being treated fantastically, Capcom, you're being naughty and it's time to call you out. You can find out all about it in this next.
oh my god, yes. Dude, we need more eyes on Capcom. What they did with DD2 and the microtransactions. Granted, I love DD2. I love Dragon's Dogma 2, the game. I think now, after all the updates and shit, it's a phenomenal game, and it's what got me into the Dragon's Dogma franchise, because the combat and gameplay is generally just an amazing, phenomenal game. But the microtransactions, oh my god, The microtransactions on the fucking Steam store are just horrible and disgusting to look at, man. It's such a bad look. Especially on launch, they mentioned, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have this happen with our game and have things cost money, like have microtransactions in a single player game." That is so horrible and so sad to see that you need microtransactions in a single player game. Granted, yes. So what? Okay. So okay. Sorry. What costed money in Dragon's Dogma 2 was something a currency called RC, and RC lets you do these things: buy these accessories for looks, change your character's looks, um, change your characters or your pawns looks, and just everything around those areas. But here's the thing: you could get RC for free and so easily simply by grinding out the game and doing missions for your pawn, having your pawn do pawn missions to get RC. A very sustainable way of getting instant RC regardless. Because while it is mainly single player, your pawns can be hired by other people who also play the game as well. And I don't know if they were underestimating the amount of people on Dragon's Dogma who play the game, because honestly, the fan base is very dedicated towards Dragon's Dogma, the franchise. If you go on their Reddit, their Discords, they love the franchise and they're very passionate about what Dragon's Dogma could be and what it can be. If they didn't have those microtransactions on the Steam store or whatever else, the game would be doing so much better. Not only that, it would actually make games improve, because I believe worrying so much about microtransactions and money caused took attention away from the game releasing, that it made the game poorly optimized at the start, making them lose more sales and more people who to play the game. Because it's so disappointing that Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't have more attention on it than it does now. Than it does now, because the gameplay again is it's so fucking good. And oh my god, I'm stuttering so much, but I do just genuinely love Dragon's Dogma. It's such a good fucking franchise. The gameplay is amazing, and microtransactions only ruin things. They would have way more people loving the game if they didn't have that listed on the Steam store. If you look back on the reviews in the past, they had a negative review bomb because of these microtransactions and poor optimization. But if you look at the gameplay now, or the reviews now of Dragon's Dogma 2, let me go look it up real quick. Hold on, Dragon's Dogma 2 store page. Right now on Steam, it went from overwhelmingly negative to mixed. That mix could have been positive or very positive if it wasn't for what they did with the game at the launch. Anyway, I mean, I think that was a pretty easy thing to point out and just get to the main point of. I was obviously rambling on for way too long, but I'm new to this, so I'm trying my best. Anyway, that's about it for the video. I will link the creator and the video itself in my description. Please go check him out. He's an amazing guy when it comes to game news like this, and it's just entertaining to watch in general. So if you want to have something to eat and you just want to fucking watch something while you eat, I think his channel is perfect for that too. And I'm going to be checking out Ross's channel too, actually, as well, because I didn't know he did gaming news. I just thought he was just another guy with the petition thing. So I don't know, because I only knew him from Stop Killing Games. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Bye.